Good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming to this meeting of the Planning Committee of the 14th of August. As you know, that it's a virtual meeting, but it will be broadcast on YouTube and be viewed on the Macclesfield Town Council website. I am chairing this meeting, and I don't know, do we have a roll call, or do we have a roll call of all the councillors who are present? Do we need one?
Oh,
Can we do a roll call of all the councillors that are present?
if you'd like to, but I think everybody's present.
We just go to first. Well, we can go first to apologies for absence.
Okay, there are none, Chair.
None, Chair. Now, any declarations of interest? And I think I'm pleased. Yes, Councillor Roberts.
Thanks, Chair. I would like to declare a pecuniary interest in application 20/355M, as the applicant is a customer of mine. And item 8, a non-pecuniary interest, alfresco dining, the fact that I'm a licensee. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? I will declare that we all have an interest, if there are no exceptions and nobody objecting, to the erection of the silk, the present we had from China as the end of the Silk Road, as we all discussed it several times. And Councillor Jackson spoke that we met and decided on so many things, but we all knew about it. In fact, when the Chinese came to Macclesfield, I met them when they had the last delegation to Macclesfield, as far as I know. So we all know about that. And if there are any speakers on that, no speakers on that. So no speakers on that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. We have no public speakers, I'm told. So we'll go straight into item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July as a correct record of that meeting. Would anybody like to propose it? Councillor Jackson proposes, and Councillor Edwards would like to second it.
Yeah.
Are we all in favor of that? Yes, we're all in favor. Thank you very much.
Councillor Roberts didn't raise his hand.
Abstain.
All right.
I went to the meeting.
You went to the meeting, so you were abstaining. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? No. Anything arising from those minutes? No. Thank you. We go on to the observations of the planning applications as they came to the town council. And this is item 5 on your agenda. And this first is an outline application 20/2265M. Speakers. Councillor Jackson would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is on Central Ward, and whilst in principle, I think it's a great application for housing. We need housing in the town and down at that side of the town. I do have some concerns about it. I noted from the report that the conservation officer has objected to this because he feels it will have a negative impact. The top floor, the new floor, would have a negative impact because of its contemporary look, and it would be a negative impact on the conservation area. And I do have concerns about that, particularly with the materials used, the metals and the glass. If it was more in keeping with the rest of the building, you know, a brick finish or something in that line, that might make a difference. Housing and Highways have given their support to this application. But the conservation area, the impact on the conservation area is the one that I'm very concerned about. Also, I do think that there should be some conditions on this. I'm just mindful that regardless of our concerns, and I don't know what our decision will be as yet till we hear what other councillors think about this, but I do feel that we should ask for conditions on this application, hours of construction, a noise impact assessment, because it's in a very noisy central area there with the traffic, the nightlife of the town, and although with the noise impact assessment, they'd also need to include provision for ventilation and odour mitigation, because again, it's above a restaurant, so we need to ensure that that is addressed. And with the air quality, a dust management plan. Also, inclusion of ultra low emission boilers, which again would help with the air quality issue and the environmental concerns that we have. So those are the conditions I think we should ask for, regardless of what our final opinion is on this. But personally, I would like to move that we object to this on the grounds of its impact on the conservation area. So I'll leave it at that and wait to see what other councillors' views are.
Anyone else? Well,
Yeah,
yes, Councillor Edwards.
I'm very sorry. I have sent Harriet a message. I just can't open the plans to it. I
Do
don't.
you want to look at it?
I'd like to, please, before making
Absolutely.
any.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Just bear with me one moment while I get it on screen.
The photographs are quite useful to see.
Yes, Councillor Wilson would like to speak. You're muted. You mute that.
Yes, I know. It just takes me a minute once you said I can speak to move the mouse to unmute myself. I just want to, while we're waiting for a chance to look at the application, I think it is worthwhile us looking at the photographs, because they're not really photographs. They're more CGI, I would say, than photographs, because they are representing what the building will look like with the additional layer on the top. I think that the third floor, as Councillor Jackson has said, to my mind, is not in keeping with the area. It stands out rather, and I certainly think that if this application goes ahead, they should think again about the look of that. And obviously, once when Harriet's brought up the photograph, you'll be able to see that. I think to add to the, that's why you can see it now on the screen. Can you see it sticks up like it looks like a bit of a glass structure. Can you see on the photograph now? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I think I obviously interested in hearing what other councillors have got to say. My view about this type of development generally is it is to be welcomed, because I think in-town living is something we want to see. Encouraging in-town living is part of our strategic plan for Macclesfield Town Council for the next 4 years. So I think developing this building to turn it into apartments is something that I would probably support rather than oppose, but obviously interested to hear what other councillors have got to say. I agree with the conditions that Councillor Jackson's mentioned if we do go ahead with support, and I think that I would like to add a further condition which I know is of concern in the area, is about that of waste collection. Apartments of this nature do have difficulties in getting waste collection to be sorted into recycling and non-recycling, things like that. So I think I'm erring on the side of supporting it in line with our plan to support in-town living, but I share all the concerns that Councillor Jackson's mentioned, and I'd like to add a couple of other conditions about cycle parking. Didn't see any provision for bike storage, and if you're going to be sustainable and green, etc., there needs to be bike storage because there's no car parking available. I don't necessarily think that's a particular issue. But there is a pressure on car parking in the town generally. It's very close to the station. Those are my comments at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Edwards, you're muted.
Just to say, it's 4 stories in total. Is there any mention of my sprinklers anywhere? And the other thing is, it just reminds me of a place that I stayed in India, where they sort of built a sort of shack on top of the roof for their kitchens. It doesn't look in keeping with the actual building, I'm afraid. But I agree with everything that Councillor Jackson and Councillor Wilson say. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add, has the conservation officer actually objected to it? Thanks, Councillor Jackson.
So
I have a feeling that it will be not the right thing to go against that advice. And until and unless we have his approval or her approval, whoever they are, we cannot possibly agree to it. It will be difficult to agree to something that the conservation officer is outright saying. Councillor Jackson, is that correct? That it is not right until we have new drawings, new drawings, new look at it, new. It's not that we don't want something, but until and unless the conservation officer say that's okay, I don't know that we can agree to that.
The report from the conservation officer is in the planning papers, on the portal, and he is saying he objects, and that is the point I've made, really, is the treatment of that 4th floor.
Building.
Yeah, it's how that's dealt with. In principle, it's fine having that 4th floor if the design and materials used are appropriate, and that's why I'm objecting to it, because of it being in the conservation area. And another point is, of course, that we are intending to go ahead with our own conservation area review in the town, and I just feel that in a way if we approved this application, it may undermine what we're hoping to do with our conservation area review. So again, that's another reason why, in my thinking, we should refuse it. In principle, we need the housing, and I'm all for that. It is just this element of it that I feel, is not acceptable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Roberts and Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm erring on the side of accepting this proposal because of our strategic plan for town centre living. The only concerns I have really is about the parking and the bin collections and stuff like that. It's an absolute nightmare to get around any of those streets in that area. Regarding the 4th floor, dare I suggest that if it's just the colour of the materials, or ask if it's the colour of the materials or the fact that it is a 4th floor structure and the impact it may have should it be made of, as in line with the building, bricks and mortar, the impacts it may have on the structure of the whole building itself, and dare I suggest that that's the reason for that appearance. maybe looking at materials of a different colour might help. I'm not sure. I'm only asking the question. Throw it out there. But in general, I'm quite happy for this application to go forward. Thank you, Chair.
So, Councillor Wilson. Anyone else?
Yes, thanks, Chair. John has quite rightly said the Conservation Officer has raised some concerns, and those concerns specifically relate to the 4th floor. The Conservation Officer saying that the contemporary 4th floor addition would have a negative impact on the setting of the conservation area, as the site is surrounded by predominantly 2-storey buildings. And as a result of that, what the Conservation Officer is saying he's not able to support the application. And I would personally prefer us to take the view, rather than, I don't think we can support it as is because of the conservation area comments, and we've all expressed concerns about the 4th floor. I don't support opposing it, having listened to the debate, because I think that we do have in our strategic plan the need to develop in-town living. So I would personally prefer that we take the line that we're not able to support the application rather than oppose it or support it, and put some conditions on it, because I think Janet's made a number of points about the conditions that are required, as have my and Councillor Roberts as well. So I would prefer us to take the line that we're currently unable to support it, which would mean we were in keeping with the Conservation Officer's comments. I completely agree that we wouldn't want to go against the Conservation Officer or cut across our conservation area review that we are undertaking or about to undertake. So I think perhaps we could steer a middle ground on this, which will meet our policy on our strategic plan, support the conservation area review, and put conditions on which a number of us have mentioned in the debate. So that would personally be my preferred way forward.
Thank you. I hope it has a lift when it's eventually done. I have difficulty in supporting it. I have difficulty in objecting to the views of the Conservation Officer, as it is so vital in the town and subsequently in other areas. I would not support it on the grounds of that. It needs to be redesigned in some way to support conservation. It must be redesigned, and I will really have difficulty supporting it. Much as I feel that we need housing, a lot of housing, I would have difficulty in supporting it. Somebody else wants to speak. Councillor Edwards wants to speak. Yes. Councillor Edwards, you're muted.
Yes. No, I agree with this middle ground that Councillor Wilson is suggesting, if there could be some mention of sprinklers in it. Thank you.
So,
Does
Chair,
anybody else want to speak, or shall we go for the vote? Or
well,
ready?
Chair, sorry to interrupt, but at the moment we have Councillor Jackson's proposal, which was actually to object, and she listed conditions, and then Councillor Wilson indicated that maybe the committee would not support, but with the conditions. So I just want to, is that a proposal, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Right, okay, just to be sure. So we have two proposals now, one to object from Councillor Jackson and one to not support, both with the set of conditions that have been discussed. So
right, one to object and one not to.
Do you want to withdraw?
Does that mean the same?
Sorry, what I would suggest is there someone present on the committee who is willing, obviously would wish to second one of our proposals, then the other proposal falls by default.
Yes, of course. Anybody would like to second Councillor Jackson's proposal? I would like to second that we object. Shall we go to the vote, please?
I wish to second Councillor Wilson's when it comes up.
Well, we will go to the first vote to object. Shall we name names or call numbers to object? I'm objecting.
Right, okay. So you're in support of the proposal, you're seconding the proposal?
Object.
Yeah, okay, right. So we need a show of hands now to take that forward.
Against objection. 1, 2.
And
2.
Abstention.
Abstention. That's interesting. Well,
and then we had
1 to support. What was Councillor Wilson's
not to support the application, but add the conditions that have been discussed. Do we have a seconder for that? And then a show of hands to support. Against. Abstain.
Well, that's carried. Councillor Wilson's that's carried.
Do you want me to read back the conditions and make sure?
Yes.
Right, so hours of construction are set, materials are in keeping with the area, that there's a noise impact assessment, there's provision for ventilation and odour mitigation because it's above a restaurant, there's a dust management plan, there's provision for waste collection including recycling, there's bike storage and sprinklers.
Can I add another condition for an internal lift into the building, please? Can we add that the lift must contain lifts to the top floor? Because we had places where they were saying they don't need lifts, but a building like that would need lifts to the upper floor, to all the floors.
I don't know if that could be set as a condition.
Okay.
I don't believe we can add conditions after we've taken the vote. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think we can. Maybe we can add a note to what we send through, you know, just an informative or, you know, something like that to just say, you know, a comment.
Okay. Anyway, that one will be carried. Thanks very much. Thank you so much. The next one is application 20/3347M. That's Goodall Street of the excuse me, 5 meters high lattice tub tower. Is it a tower? For the radio units. Any speakers on that? Any? Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I have no objections to this. It's something that's needed. We all have our mobile phones. These communication towers have to go somewhere. It's in a reasonably sort of industrial area, so it's you know, it's the best sort of position for it in that area of town. So I'm quite happy to, you know, to say no objection.
Okay, no objections. Thank you. Anyone else wants to speak on that? No, we have no objections. Application 20/2816M, that came before us. Yes, that was already. Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, we have seen this before because we've discussed it on the last meeting about the listed building or the conservation area approval, and we did approve, but with certain conditions concerning landlords, control and control of HMOs. So I would like those repeated from the last application concerning this property. And you know, in principle, again, we're trying to encourage in-town living and so on in the town. HMOs have to be well controlled, because otherwise they can, you know, it can be a difficulty with the size of the apartments particularly. And it was nice to note that they are including a bike store. So that is very helpful for its position so central to town, because there is no parking available for this property. So I have no objection to this one. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will hope to raise an item that all, maybe not for this meeting, that all HMOs, however small, must be registered. But that's for another meeting. So we have no objection to this one. Councillor Roberts, would you have liked to speak? No?
No.
No, well, no, no, we have no objections then. We move on to application 20/305M, a single story rail extension. Any speakers on that one? Any? No? No speakers? No speakers.
I'll record no objections then.
No objection. And we have application 20/2778M, a variation of conditions on Bond Street, 207 Bond Street. Do we have any speakers in that? Yes, Councillor Jackson?
This again is on Central Ward. It's just concerning some minor changes and some different use of materials. I have no objection.
No objections. Anyone else? No, no objections. And we go to application 20/3081M, first floor side and front extension on Newlyn Avenue, Macclesfield. Any speakers in that? No? Any? No?
Yeah, Councillor Edwards.
Councillor Edwards, yes.
I have no objection to this, except that in the application it has a wonderful double negative, in that it says will not have any negative effect. But other than that,
okay.
No
okay.
comment.
So no objections. Okay, we move on to 20/3046M. This is an ATM sign in Castle Street, which, any speakers on that? We have spoken and spoken of ATM signs. No objections.
Right, no objections.
Then we come to application 20/2152M, and this is that retrospective roof on 106 Gosworth Road, to which I'm quite familiar. I will say that since, as Councillor Edwards has already indicated, that's been up since 2016, and I don't know that we can prove harm to the neighbors or harm to the environment, or I don't know that I have any objection to it. Anybody else would like to speak? No. No, I have no objection. So no objection to that. I did get a letter from someone else on the road, which had been referred that there were no drawings. Those drawings were sent and looked at by the person who wrote the letter. But it's been there for 4 years, and it has caused no harm to the neighbors or anybody. So I have no objection. I move on to 20/2127M, 58 Tisrington Drive. This is a single story side extension. Any speakers on that? No, no objection. Application 20/2148M, Acton Avenue, extensions and alterations. What would those be? Anybody?
Do you want to have a look?
Yes, please, if you could. Did this not come up before?
Yes, it has. Let's just see. That might be the letter to us. It's a little slow because this PC is doing a lot of work at the moment. All right, that's fine. Floor elevations and floor plans. Chair, what did you specifically want to look at?
Where would these extensions be? Would it be at the side there? Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, it's running very, very slowly at the moment.
Yeah. I could see that. I got it. I got coffee. It's there.
There we are.
Yeah. No. Big.
Do you want to see anything else?
No more. No, it's okay. Can that? Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. I have no objections. Anybody? Councillor Edwards wants to speak.
Just a question, Chair. I'm sure you'll be able to clarify it. With this application and the next one, we consult the coal board, and I'm sure I've asked this question before, but why do we consult the coal board? Is the coal under Macclesfield?
Is there what, coal?
Yeah.
No. Not as far as I know.
Oh.
As far as I know, there's no coal in Macclesfield.
Councillor Jackson, did you want to say something?
I'm aware that there were people back in the 1800s, because I've got one of the lists for a house I was living in then, of people living in the property, lodging in the property, who were coal miners.
All right.
So there is some of that around in the area, but I'm not sure exactly where. There may also be an issue of if there has been a coal yard at some point.
Yes,
that's
true. That's true.
When coal was the main source of fuel, and so those are two different, separate issues which could be impacting on this. But without going into the history of it all, I couldn't tell you for sure why, the reason.
I can find out for you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Wilson.
Following on from what Councillor Jackson said, I think that's quite correct. And where there has been coal digging in the past in any area, and that will be on the historical records, it will be sensible, I think, to consult the coal board, because they would be able to check their records and make sure that there's nothing underneath the property that might cause issues. I suspect that that's part of it.
But otherwise to that, we have no real other comments to object, no objections. Next application is 20/3249M. This is Sandy Lane, Macclesfield, demolition of a building.
Sorry, Chair, I think we might have just skipped one. Bottom of page 3, please. The Antry House, Gecko Limited.
The what? Which one?
Bottom of page 3.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah,
because Councillor Edwards mentioned it already. The Armity House one, Gecko Limited, where they want a new access gate and facade alterations to the principal elevation. Councillor Jackson would like to speak on that.
Thank you. Although it's not on my ward, it's on Herdsfield, but I was quite pleased to see this. They are obviously they've got facade alterations, which I thought certainly improved the building. I liked the look of that. It's an industrial building, so obviously it has its own style, but I thought the improvements were good. And also it was good to have the extension to the car park and to include electric vehicle charging. Good. Very pleased to hear that, because that's part of one of our strategies, is to try and encourage more electric vehicle charging. People are buying more electric vehicles, but they do need places to charge them. And I'm particularly thinking of the people who live in the terrace streets who don't have access to vehicle charging as easily as people who live in, in the semis and on the estates. So I welcomed that, and I certainly have no objection. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Roberts, were you going to speak?
No.
No. No objections then. No objections. Okay, we move on to 20/324M on Sandy Lane. That there is a demolition of a single-story building and construction of new 2-story side extension and single-story rear extension. Anyone wants to speak on that? No objections to that then. Okay, we move on to 20/3216M. That's for the joinery on Adelaide Street. That's an advertisement consent for a sign. Councillor Edwards.
Well, signs as well as sprinklers are my pet subjects, and I rather like this modern sign, I have to say, and I have no objection.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, I think it's very colourful, and I think it will certainly cheer up the residents of Harry Lawson Court, who will be looking across the road to it. So it brightens up their outlook from that side of the building.
Thank you. I don't know if we can record that, brightens up the building, but we support it then. We support it then.
Does the committee want me to note support or note no objections?
Support.
Does everybody
agree? That's all right with you, Councillor Jackson? Support.
I have no objection. Support. It's
thank you.
Yeah, quite happy.
Thank you. We go on to 20/3276M, single-story extension at 41 Melsham Close in Macclesfield. Do we have any speakers at all? No. Shall we say no objections to that? Okay. This one is Scholars Close. Did it not come up before? This orangery, no, of this orangery, did it not come up before? 20/3273M to Scholars Close. The rear orangery, that's on the Jasmine Park, I think that is. Just across from the Broken Cross Church. Yes, Councillor Edwards, you wish to speak on that?
It's a little bit further up the road. It's a little cul-de-sac off to Birtles or wherever it is.
Yeah.
Just to say a comment really that I see that the Heritage and Design Forestry haven't replied yet, and they have till the 21st of August, and we are now deciding on it before their date of closure. But other than that, I have no objection.
Is it not like a conservatory, a kind of larger structure?
Councillor Jackson.
Yes, yes, it is quite a large structure at the bottom of the garden, but it doesn't appear to be impacting on any of the neighbours overlooking or anything like that. There have been no neighbour comments on it, but I take on board what Councillor Edwards is saying, and maybe we could say no objection subject to the arboricultural officer's report. So that obviously if they say they're not happy. I couldn't see on the plan any trees that would be affected, and possibly that's why there hasn't been a report, you know, because there is nothing to report. But yeah, we could say that, and then we can.
Could I just ask, Chair, if you build an orangery, is there an obligation to grow oranges in it, or can you just use it for sort of daytime living?
Well, there are a lot of plants. An orangery carries a lot of growth of different types of plants, and you know, it's a kind of nice, it's a kind of small area of trees, little trees of different types.
Do you mean sort of satsumas and tangerines?
Look over your garden fence, Councillor Edwards. There's one next door to you.
Oh, well, there you go. He wouldn't have noticed. Thank you. Now we have a garden structure on 20/327M that doesn't define the garden structure, or do we have a definition of what this garden structure on 20 Cranford Avenue? Maybe. Yes, Councillor.
I think this is a summer house at the bottom of the garden.
Okay, yeah. I guess it was.
Does anyone want to look at the plans?
Yes, let's see what's it, please. Thank you. I don't know that they needed a planning application for that.
Can you see that, Chair?
Very big, very nice.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to impact on anybody. Well, it's between fences. The fences it's enclosed through the fences.
Yeah, the size might require planning though.
No.
Okay.
It's big. Thanks very much. No, I have no objections. It's large. But then they probably have a large garden. It's already done. Is this structure already in place? Do we understand that?
Bear with me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't say it's retrospective.
No. Okay. Thanks very much. But there's no objection to that, or does anybody want to speak on that? No. Councillor Roberts, no. Two-story side extension is 20/3285M on 47 Fallybroom Road. This seemed to have come up before as well. I don't know. Anyone? No comments, no objection. Application 20/3322M, 43 Brinton Road. And that's a planning that has expired and reapplication made. Anyone wants to speak on that? No.
Councillor
Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Just to say, this is in Councillor Robertson, my patch, just to say that they obviously just let the planning application lapse and they're reapplying, and I don't think we can really object if it was granted before. Thank you.
You can object if you had a reason, but you have no reason.
I haven't got a reason.
Well, thanks very much. So we shall say no objection. We go to 20/3354M, and this is Brunswick Mill in Pickford Street. From office to dwelling house. Just the Councillor Jackson, we'll hear what Councillor Jackson thinks.
Yes, this is on Central Ward. It's close to, at the top of Pickford Street, very close to the bus station. It's the very end of that final property, the mill, and so it's for all floors. I think it's 3 floors. It's quite large. Initially, I thought, oh, it's quite, this is quite small, but there's quite a decent area there. Would make a good property. I don't have any objection to it. It's very close in the town centre. There is no parking with it. Because, to be honest, the application, there was not a lot of information with the application, on the application form and on the plans. But I am aware that there is a little parking between
at the side.
At the side, yes, between the mill and the opticians. But I don't know whether this property has the rights to that area. It may well do, and so there is some parking there for this property. But I think it's well positioned, right by the bus station, very central to town, and it's. I think it's yeah. I'm all for it. You know, the more in town residential we can get, the better. So yes, I support this. No objection.
No objection. Yes, Councillor Wilson, you're muted. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to support Councillor Jackson that we support this application. It meets our strategic plan of encouraging in-town living, and it does have the support of the Conservation Officer.
Which is good. Okay, yes, Councillor Edwards. Roberts.
Just looking at the application, it does say on the application form that they're with parking. So I don't think they'd put it on if they couldn't use the close by car park. So I'm in favour of it as well. Thank you.
So shall we say we support that? Yes.
We just have a show of hands on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we come to the next one, which we spoke about on the erection of the stone monument. 20/3156M. Does anyone want to say anything else about it, please? This is the erection of the monument. Yes, Councillor Jackson. You're muted.
Yes, it's okay. It takes me a moment to actually get to be able to unmute myself. Yes, again, this is on Central Ward. The application is for the monument to go in Sparrow Park. And for people who know Sparrow Park, there is a circular area as you come through the main gates. It's there in front of you. It drops down away. Quite a large circular area. And that is the position that's intended for this monument. The monument is 7 meters high, so it is quite a
big
height, but because of its positioning in the sunken area, it then helps to reduce the height of it. And walking down from the side of the church You would see the top of it as you come to the gates, and it would rise, you know, a certain height above, but it wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be overpowering. And I am aware that there are concerns in the area about this, about the impact of it, but I think the positioning of it is the best we can do for it in that area, and positioning it there. And I welcome it. It's acknowledging our history of the silk industry in the town, and the fact that we were the western end of the Silk Road, and I think it's something we should be proud of and we should be acknowledging. And so that is the purpose for the monument, and I'm very pleased to, and in fact I would like to support it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Wilson. You mute.
Yeah, we're all on mute, Chair, and we unmute ourselves when we speak, and it just takes me a minute to click my mouse to say mute so I can speak to you.
All right, okay. Thank
you. I also support the application. I think in addition to the point that Councillor Jackson's already made, there are other locations, as there always are with things like this, but the whole point of this is to celebrate our silk links with China, the other end of the silk route, etc. And this is going to be a tourist attraction as well. And it being in the centre of Macclesfield will bring tourists to Macclesfield. It will bring visitors to the shops and hospitality in Macclesfield. Going through all the applications, there's a very interesting heritage statement which is being prepared to accompany the application. It's in the conservation area review, and the conservation officer has commented with permissions in terms of the materials being in accordance with those specified. So we have support from the conservation officer. Also, one or two concerns have been expressed to me about the sheer size of it, but I think it isn't going to loom over properties behind it, because, as Councillor Jackson said, there's a drop down into Sparrow Park for its location. And on the papers, on the planning portal, there's also details from the Institution of Structural Engineers, who've properly examined the site and done various boreholes and investigations to make sure that the way can be supported. So I also add my support to this application.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? No? Well, we are supporting it.
Should we just have a show of hands on that?
Show of hands to support. I support it. Yeah, we all support it. Thank you. We are on the last application here of 12 Ecton Avenue and 20/3372M. Single story side and rear extension. Are there any speakers on that? No? So we have no objection. No objection for that one. The next three items are for noting. The conservation. Yes, Councillor Roberts, what were you going to speak?
Yeah, excuse me, Chair, I do apologise. I did declare an interest on item 20/3005M. Have we heard that one?
Which one is that?
It's the 20/3005M.
Yeah, it was. It's on page 2.
I can't recall going through it. Not
68 Pownell Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've noted no objections from the committee.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
While we are noting the conservation area review, does anybody want to speak anything further about it? We're just for noting that. Yes, Councillor Wilson. That's the conservation review that we are noting, yes?
Yes, we're just noting any updates, and the update is that, having agreed at our last meeting, we would seek quotes from local conservation planning consultants. That process is in place and the paperwork's being drawn up, being checked at the moment by the town clerk, who is the responsible officer for checking that. So work is in progress to get the quotes, as we agreed at the last meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. And number 7, the town character assessment. To note any updates. You want to speak on that as well?
Yes, just to note that we are making progress. At the last meeting, we agreed that we would, in consultation with Cheshire East Planning, to do a read across with the issues we're concerned about with the local plan. And again, that work is in progress.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Anyone else? And the last one is to note the policy and the consultation period of the alfresco dining. Does anyone else wants to speak on that at all? Yes?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have a new policy that's been introduced by national government. It's being implemented locally by Cheshire East Council to approve applications to create alfresco dining on pavement areas. The procedure is in the packs and has been widely advertised and is available on the Cheshire East website. But we need to agree a procedure for us to deal with these applications, because the whole process is been reduced down to 2 weeks to enable these applications to be dealt with as swiftly as possible. And there's a consultation period of 5 days, of which the Town Council Planning Committee, as a statutory consultee, gets 3 days to consult. Now, on the basis that we have to have 3 days to actually call a meeting, it's not going to be practical for us to have all the meetings we need to deal with this. So I think we need to put in place a proposal to enable us to be properly consulted. And so I'd like to suggest, for us to be able to fulfil our role as a statutory consultee, that when we receive applications, the admin and governance manager emails the planning committee members, including the ward member, if that person is not a member of the planning committee, to ask for a response, whether it's approve, object, if it's object, the reason for objecting, and any other comments required. And the admin and governance manager will give us a timescale for response, which is likely to be 24 to 48 hours. And then admin and governance manager can collate our responses and get back to Cheshire East. I think that is the quickest and simplest way of proceeding with this, to enable we can be involved as a statutory consultee. So I'm putting forward that process to enable us to have our statutory views considered as a statutory consultee. Thank you.
I would like to add that any dining, as an individual who live here, yeah, Councillor Jackson, I'll bring you in, that the pavement must remain for all people, especially disabled people, to use. And whenever dining is done in al fresco, the obstruction of the pavement must be a consideration for all peoples. You cannot completely obstruct the pavement for people who need to walk, who have different disabilities, different needs. It must be inclusive of all those other elements of living. So I wanted to put that in. Yes, Councillor Jackson, I'll hear you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, well, I'd like to second that proposal, because I think we maybe do need a formal vote on that. And yes, to make the point that there may be quite a lot of people wishing to apply for these licenses who may find they will be disappointed because of the very points that have been raised, that it is the pavement, it is not the highway, even though within the paperwork it's stated as highway, but highway really is, in this instance, the pavement. And there has to be enough room on the pavement for pedestrians and other users to be able to pass by, and that has to be there's a certain minimum width. And unfortunately, our pavements in Macclesfield, in a lot of areas, are really quite narrow. And so I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people, really, that they're going to find this isn't maybe the answer that they were hoping for. So we'll have to see how these applications come through. We may not actually get so many. They may be turned, I don't know, people may find once they've read the conditions and the rules that they can't, you know, they won't qualify to apply. But obviously I'm very supportive of all those who meet the criteria. You know, the town council will do all they can to help and support them. But we also have to be aware of our residents with
Sure.
people who have disabilities, reduced sight, and mobility issues, and mums with children with prams and so on. So and also, of course, there has to be the requirement for no smoking areas, because we do have,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
people who wish to be able to take part in having
Yeah.
some food or drink, and not
Sure.
want to be subjected to smoke. So that's the other thing that they have to ensure. So yeah, I'm all for us going ahead with how this has been suggested by Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. Have we got those suggestions on board?
We just
Yes.
need a show of hands to support that.
We support all those suggestions. Yeah. Thanks very much. We have no correspondence, it's saying here. And we have one members item on 10.1 on Fence Avenue development, public open space and Canal Bridge. Do we have any speakers in that? Councillor Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As the report before you covers, I attended the Strategic Planning Board on behalf of the Planning Committee on the 29th of July to speak about our concerns about speak about our issues on the development of the public open space. And the report covers the outcome of that. We welcome the amount of affordable housing that this development is providing. It's interesting that the development in conjunction with Homes England has been able to provide 90 affordable homes out of the 300, which is excellent. We often don't find that's the case, and so our welcoming that was noted. I also raised the issue on behalf of the committee about the sprinklers, and the sprinklers have now been agreed for the Defence House part of the bill. So again, that was successful. But the point I wanted to discuss with the committee today is that issue of the public open space on the Canal Bridge. I raised about these issues. It's really about sustainability. There's a canal bridge at if you use the canal regularly, you'll know where it is. But the back of the site, the developers are building a bridge up to that canal bridge, and then that canal bridge will take pedestrians and cyclists over onto the canal path, which would give good connections to both Buxton Road and the shops and the primary school there, and through to Herdsfield Road and the shops and the primary school there. And so that is a far better alternative than having to walk all the way around and go up Buxton Road or Herdsfield Road with the traffic and the fumes, etc., particularly taking small children to school. And I also asked, as we had discussed, that the public open space be given to Macclesfield Town Council to develop as part of our Forests for the Future project. There are a number of trees being removed from the site to allow building. There are also a significant number of additional trees being planted, but we did put forward our view that this public open space could be part of our Forests for the Future project. Now, these issues were picked up by the chair of the committee. There was no planning decision about this because it's not necessarily a planning issue per se, but the chair commented following the debate on the application that Cheshire East Council and Macclesfield Town Council should work together to discuss how we could deliver some trees on the public open space. And also talk to the Canal and River Trust about the bridge. Now, at the time of the application being considered, no response had been received from the Canal and River Trust, but that has now been received and is now on the planning portal, and is dated the 11th of February 2020. So somewhere somebody's been lost in the translation, and the Canal and River Trust comments had not been placed on the portal. So since I prepared this report for you, we now have got the Canal and River Trust comments, and what they're basically saying is this is bridge, for those that are interested, it's bridge number 36 on the canal. And in principle, the Canal and River Trust are supporting the use of the bridge as a footbridge, and the creation of a towpath to access the towpath. It's all about who owns what land. But they are saying that they estimate the cost of refurbishing the bridge to make it safe to use for pedestrians and cyclists will be in the region of £10,000. And so a new towpath access would be welcomed by them, but they're saying they don't have the funds to pay for it. So that's new information that's come up since I prepared the report. So what I'm proposing that we do is that we do write to the developer and Cheshire East Council to push again about the public access open space, and to state our interest in it being part of our Forest for the Future project. It was stated in the meeting that it was likely that the public open space will be managed by ANSA, so we may need to liaise with ANSA about, ANSA have been supportive in planting trees in South Park, for example, as part of our Forest for the Future project. And now we know a bit more about the canal towpath and the cost of that, I think we should be asking the developer and Cheshire East Council about their views about how that could be achieved. So that's my proposal, basically, that opening up that canal bridge will be a very great positive development, and that we pursue that as a planning committee, in that we write to the appropriate authorities, as I've detailed in my written note, to see if the bridge can be reopened and the public open space can be allocated as part of our Forest for the Future project. Thank you.
Anyone else? I would just like to say that we must be sure that the canal bridge is nothing at all to do with the planners. It's to do with the canal trust. When we are deciding on planning, the canal bridge is not the property of the developers, nor not really the interest of the developers. We are dealing with somebody, a different body, which is the trust, and while it will be an enhancement to the development, it is not a planning issue at all. The canal bridge is not in planning, but I'm grateful that the trust will liaise with the developers to do that independently, which is a good thing with the open space. Nothing at all to do with the development, and development to do with the social housing and all the other things, that's fine. But the canal bridge, I fear that we don't want to divert attention from planning into the canal bridge. That's a completely separate issue that must be done with another organization. But that they're linked is good. That those two organizations will link themselves, nothing to do with the planning. Thank you, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, Chairman. Yes, I mean the issue with the bridge is what I'll call a civil matter. It's not, sure, as you say, to do with planning, but it's obviously come about through the planning application, and it's a knock-on effect from that of you know what the town council want to do with this public open space and the forest for the future. Because if we have a public open space, we want it available to the public. That's the whole point of it. And if by opening up the canal bridge and having a footpath through there that enables that, then it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned in all aspects. Obviously there's a cost to it, and we have to then see how that can be negotiated by contributions. If we can receive a contribution from the developer concerning the public open space, that would be helpful. And Cheshire East may be willing to give a contribution to the towpath and the canal bridge. If the Canal and River Trust aren't able to provide a contribution, then it comes then finally down to the town council and what we may be able to do. But there are other options first, and I would certainly want to be exploring other options before we finally come to the town council to give funding. I think we are the backstop. We're not the first
Sure.
on the route.
Sure.
But I welcome this item and the proposal.
Yes. What I was actually saying, that when we are considering the planning, we cannot make the canal bridge a condition at all. We cannot consider the canal bridge must be considered as a link, and we hope to bring that together. When we are considering planning, we are going for planning, not the canal bridge. Anyone ever? Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, and that is actually what I said, Chair. The Strategic Planning Board discussed this issue and made no decision about the canal bridge or the public open space because they are not material planning issues.
No.
And the chair of the planning committee made a very clear comment at the end of the meeting that Cheshire East Council, Macclesfield Town Council and the developer should work together to secure this access for good community access, and that is what I'm about us doing, and hence my proposal that we try and bring the interested parties together. The Canal and River Trust comment unfortunately seemed to have been lost in the ether, and although it was made back in February, it didn't make it to the planning portal in time for consideration by the Strategic Planning Board. And what the Canal and River Trust are saying is they very much welcome the reopening of this bridge. They support it, but they don't have the funds to pay for it. And so I think the point that Councillor Jackson's also concurred with is that we now need, in my view, to write to the developer, to ask the developer and Cheshire East Council to see whether we can work together to develop the public open space and open the canal bridge. The developer might contribute something, Cheshire East might contribute something, and if they did that, the town council might well want to contribute something. It could be a joint project between all three. But to get the ball rolling, we have to start by making those approaches. And so therefore my proposal is that we approach the developer and Cheshire East Council to push again on these two issues, maybe ask for a meeting to discuss it with them so we can take it forward. But I think this will be an excellent addition to the area where the houses are, and also for the public to access the open space. So that is my proposal, basically, that we write in the first instance to maybe ask for a meeting to get people together to discuss it and see whether we can raise the funds that are needed to open the canal bridge. But I'm not proposing that we pay for all of it. And in due course, we may want to make a contribution, but that will be a different matter altogether, and that would need to be considered in the appropriate place for a contribution from a funding point of view. That's not what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that we talk with other people and see if we can, the chair directed that he thought we should talk, all should talk to each other to proceed with this project, and that's what I'm doing at the moment, saying let's talk and see if we can move it on.
Anyone else?
I'll second that proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
What is the proposal? Can we have the words for it? That we meet the developers? Can we?
The proposal is the last paragraph in my document, which is in the minutes in the pack, Chair. I therefore propose we write to the developer and Cheshire East Council to push again on the public open space and write to the Canal and River Trust about the canal bridge. So basically, that just needs to be slightly amended. We write to the developer and Cheshire East Council to secure a meeting to discuss the reopening of the canal bridge and access to the public open space in respect of our Forest for the Future project.
Did you say to invite the developer? Is that a part of it?
Yes, Chair. I think we need to secure a meeting between Macclesfield Town Council, Cheshire East Council, and the developer.
Okay.
To discuss how we can use the public open space as part of our Forest for the Future project, and discuss the possibility of funding the reopening of the canal bridge.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'll do that then.
So just one moment, please, Chair. We have the proposal from Councillor Wilson, which has been seconded by Councillor Jackson. We just need to have a show of hands now in support of that.
I'm happy to meet the developers.
Right, so you're all in agreement then.
So developers. Are there any abstentions? No. Is Councillor Roberts gone?
He had to leave. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But we're still quorate.
Okay. Right, we have nothing else to say except the date and time of the next meeting, which is on the 4th of... Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, just a comment on this, date and time of the next meeting. I see that it's at 10 o'clock on the 4th of September. Just to say that there is also a personnel meeting at 9:30 on the 4th of September. I'm just wondering if we should make our planning meeting possibly half an hour later to allow time for the personnel meeting and to then be able to reconvene for the planning meeting. It's just a suggestion. I don't know.
Shall we do that at 11, or are you saying 10:30 or 11?
I think Councillor Wilson might want to comment.
Yes, thank you. The personnel committee meeting is actually on the 7th of September. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's happened, but the personnel committee meeting is at 6 o'clock on Monday, the 7th of September, and the services committee is at 7 o'clock on Monday, the 7th of September. We realised there was a clash, and we couldn't, as Councillor Jackson said, we realised there was a clash, and we couldn't have the two meetings at the same time. So it was moved to Monday the 7th of September. So the issue's already been resolved. But thanks for pointing out that somewhere something's not been changed in the schedule of meetings. But the Chair of Personnel, I can confirm that the Personnel Committee is at 6 o'clock on Monday the 7th of September.
So it's not the 4th at all?
Not
the 4th?
No. So as was, sorry about that, but in my diary I'd got it as personnel, so before the planning, so I was just concerned, but that's been addressed. It's personnel's going to be on the following Monday, so there isn't an issue now. So
thanks very much. Right, we've come to the end, and thank you all for attending. Does anybody want to say anything else? I don't. And thank you, Councillor Hutchinson, and we'll see each other on Saturday, I think. So much to speak about. And so thank you for attending, and we close the meeting now.